So, how do we actually learn something new? Is it, a sudden flash of genius, or is it something a lot messier? Today, we are going to unpack one of the most important theories of learning ever, and it all starts with a very, very hungry cat. Seriously, just for a second, picture it. You're locked in a box. There are no instructions, no hints. It's just you. And you have to figure out how to get out. What's your first move? And that right there is the big question. It's the puzzle that drove a ton of early psychology. It's not just what we learn, but how that process actually works. How do we get from being completely clueless to actually knowing what we're doing? Well, the guy who decided to get some real hard evidence on this was Edward Thorndike. He was an American psychologist and really a trailblazer in understanding how we learn. You see, back then in the late 1890s, a lot of people thought that animals had these little moments of insight and reasoning, kind of like humans. But Thorndike, he had a hunch. He wondered, is that really the full picture, or is something else going on, something a little more gradual? So to figure this out, he designed this absolutely brilliant and now totally famous experiment. And the star of the show, a hungry and pretty determined cat. His setup was genius. He called it a puzzle box. He'd put a hungry cat inside this little wooden box, and just outside, close enough to smell, was a delicious little piece of fish. The only way out was to figure out the puzzle. So what does the cat do? It doesn't sit there and think about it. No way. It goes crazy. It's scratching the walls, it's biting at the bars, it's pacing all around. Thorndike called all these random actions trials. And then, pop, in the middle of all that chaos, totally by accident, the cat bumps into a little lever or pulls a string. The door swings open and freedom. And of course, the fish. That was the moment. Now here's the really important part. Thorndike didn't just do this once. He put the cat back in again and again. And he timed it. The cat didn't suddenly have a eureka moment. No, instead, it just got a little bit faster each time. The useless scratching and biting slowly disappeared, and it got to the lever quicker. It created this perfect gradual learning curve. In this experiment gave us his big theory, trial and error learning. It's pretty much what it sounds like. It's the idea that we learn by just trying stuff. We try a bunch of things, and when something finally works, we start doing that thing more and more often. So Thorndike didn't stop there. He boiled down his observations into a few core principles that he called the laws of learning. The first one, and this is the big one, is called the law of effect, and it's all about consequences. It basically looks at what happens after we do something. Is the result satisfying? Or is it not so great? Think about it. For the cat, pressing the lever led to a reward, the food. So that action was strengthened, it was stamped in. But all the useless scratching, that led to nothing. So those behaviors got weaker. It just makes sense, right? But here's an interesting update. Later on, Thorndike actually revised this idea a little. He realized that rewards are way, way more powerful for strengthening a behavior than punishments are for getting rid of one. Turns out that positive reinforcement is the real powerhouse of learning. And that leads perfectly into his second rule, the law of exercise. This is basically practice makes perfect. The more you repeat an action that leads to a good outcome, the stronger that connection gets in your brain. Repetition is literally building a highway for that behavior. Okay, so this is all really interesting for cats in boxes. But what does it have to do with us, with our everyday lives? Well, as it turns out, pretty much everything. Just think about a little kid learning to tie their shoes. The first time, it's a total mess, right? A jumble of loops and knots. Those are the errors. But through all those repeated attempts, they slowly figure out the right moves. And eventually, they can do it without even thinking. It becomes automatic. And once you see it, you'll see this pattern everywhere. Learning to ride a bike? Falling over is an error that teaches you what not to do. Studying for a test? A wrong answer is an error, but getting one right feels good. That's a reward. Even something like posting on social media. Those likes are little rewards that shape what you post next time. So what's the big takeaway from all this? Thorndike's work was absolutely huge. It didn't just explain learning. It totally changed how we thought about behavior. Thorndike actually called his theory connectionism because it's all about making a connection between a situation and a response. And this idea laid the direct groundwork for B.F. Skinner and his super famous work on operant conditioning. You can see its influence today in everything from how teachers structure drills in a classroom to how we train our pets. But hey, no theory is perfect, right? The biggest knock on Thorndike's idea is that it doesn't really have a good explanation for those sudden aha moments, what we call insight. Sometimes you're stuck on a puzzle and you're not getting anywhere, and then all of a sudden, the answer just hits you. It just clicks. Thorndike's slow, gradual model doesn't quite capture that magic. That's where later theories came in, which looked more at our internal thought processes.
So let's wrap this up. What should you remember? First, learning is often a slow, gradual process. Second, mistakes are not failures. They are an essential part of learning. Third, rewards are incredibly powerful at shaping what we do. And finally, practice really does strengthen those connections.
And maybe the most powerful idea of all is this. A lot of the time, real, deep learning isn't some crazy flash of genius. It happens because something worked, and we simply repeated it. And that right there, that's the powerful, simple truth of trial and error.